All right, let's get started. Hi, everyone. My name is Kaylee Shaver, and I'm the marketing specialist here at RKL eSolutions. Thank you for joining us today as we host Sage Enterprise Intelligence for a webinar on how self-service business intelligence can shorten time to decisions. On the line from Sage Enterprise Intelligence, we have Greg Brown and Jasdeep Bahugul. Just a few housekeeping items before we get started. All lines are muted, but we encourage you to enter any questions you have throughout the presentation into the Q&A feature located at the bottom of your screen. Greg and Jasdeep will try to answer your questions as they come in, but we will ensure that all questions will be answered at the end of the presentation. This session will be recorded, which we will send out along with a copy of the slide deck within the next couple of days. And with that, Greg, you can go ahead and get started.
Thank you very much, Kaylee. And again, thank you very much to RKL, Kaylee, Laura, and others for allowing us the opportunity for the next 60 minutes to introduce everyone and maybe update those users already using the Sage Enterprise Intelligence solution to the latest and greatest. So again, my name is Greg Brown. I'm the president of Nectari Software, and we're located in Montreal. Along with me is Jasdeep Bahugul, who will be doing the presentation of the Nectari software, SEI software, in the next few minutes. So a couple of introductory slides. Go ahead, Jas. The reason why we're here today and what we've been experiencing for many years as a manufacturer of business intelligence and data management software is to allow customers, small, medium, and very large, the ability to really streamline and standardize the way they're accessing, reporting, and analyzing data. We often find that there are many customers out there that are doing it on an ad hoc basis using a lot of manual effort and multiple different tools, and also working in silos in terms of the way people do look at information themselves without really being able to collaborate with a system-wide BI solution such as Sage Enterprise Intelligence. In terms of overcoming some of the business uncertainties, again, we often find people are working in silos, doing it manually. When they're trying to report on sales and financial information, there's often a lot of complexity, a lot of time being wasted, and a lot of questions that are undetermined in terms of not being able to make decisions based on untimely and inaccurate data. Okay, Jas? In terms of Sage Enterprise Intelligence, I just want to make sure that we understand that the solution's name is really Nectari, manufactured by ourselves, Nectari Software. With Sage, we go back about 20 years, and the last 12, we put to market globally with Sage, our Nectari solution under the branded name, Sage Enterprise Intelligence, or SEI. So for most of the presentations, unless Jas and I make a mistake, we're going to try and refer to it as SEI. So first of all, just to give you an idea of the global footprint of the solution is available through Sage and over 300 business partners in 50 plus countries. We currently have about 2,700 customers, and we are now available for 10 Sage product lines. Some product lines that are in regions of the world where we've never heard of these Sage solutions before, but they have embraced the SEI solution. Last year, 2021, SEI was the top selling ISV solution in Europe, the UK, South Africa, the Middle East, and here in our home country, Canada. So quite impressive results over the last 12 months. In terms of the solution itself, one of the things that hopefully everyone will see is that it is a fully comprehensive BI and data management solution. So that allows companies to invest in a single solution for all of their data access, analysis, and reporting needs. Some of the key points about any BI solution, including SEI, is all about making decisions on a timely, an accurate, and effective basis, rather than having to wait and not be so sure about the decisions they're making. It's also about giving the power and empowering people to analyze, report on information themselves and within their fellow colleagues in terms of being able to share and collaborate, not only internally, but externally. Some of the key features, and this is where Jazz will come in the next few minutes, and there are many, but starting with what I just mentioned in terms of being an all-in-one BI solution, it's very simple to learn, to deploy and use and grow into, which often leads to many more users than from the beginning, embracing the software and using it moving forward within the company. There are a number of pre-built analytics reports and what we call universal data models, which Jazz will show you, including dashboards. So right away, for any Sage solution that it's available for, SEI will support a lot of pre-built deliverables so that you're not just starting from a blank slate. We also have the ability to centralize data from multiple data sources. So not only multiple, but any type of data sources within our OLAP technology. Jazz will be also referring to that. Very important, it's multi-everything. So in terms of company, entity, multi-currency, being a global solution for many global Sage enterprise software solutions, it's an absolute must, and you'll see reference to that during the presentation. In terms of navigating through the software, and again, this is part of its ease of use, either through the web or the Excel add-in that you'll see as well. It's very easy to find your way around. It's very easy to build things on the fly, modify those things that have already been pre-built, and it just makes the user experience very easy in terms of working with the software. Some of the capabilities, in addition to just being a BI reporting and an analytical solution, is we offer budgeting and forecasting capabilities within the core solution, often which are not part of a BI solution, as well as the Excel add-in. We call it a crowd favorite, but I would say about 99% of all customers, very first thing they want to get their hands on and implement is what we call the Excel add-in. So the ability to access information from within Excel in a real-time dynamic fashion. And again, Jazz will show some examples of that. It's fully web and cloud enabled. We have many customers now that are looking to move their data and our solution to the web, not just the web, sorry, but the cloud. So again, the software is fully web and cloud enabled. And again, we have companies that are very small, embracing the solution, to some of the biggest customers that Sage has on the planet. So again, very scalable in terms of being able to start and grow with the solution. And of course, very importantly, the low cost of ownership, quick ROI, based on the fact that you can standardize and streamline your processes using one solution. You don't have to buy other components, which often is the case. And you're eliminating an awful lot of time in terms of manual and time errors in terms of trying to get at the data the way people are trying to do still today. Okay. Again, it's all about ROI. So we run into many situations still today where we will look at how a company is accessing their information, how they have started to report and analyze on it. And we realize that there is an awful lot of manual effort. There are a lot of errors being made, a lot of time being wasted. So again, it's all about delivering quickly the ability to analyze and report on information with a single solution. Again, easy to learn, implement, and deploy. And of course, starting out of the gate with a lot of pre-built, many pre-built templates. Okay. That's my piece for the moment. I'm going to pass it over to Jazz, and hope everyone enjoys the presentation. Jazz, it's all yours.
Thank you so much, Greg, for your presentation, and thank you everyone for joining us today. As Greg mentioned my name a couple of times, it's Jasdeep, and I'm a pre-sales engineer for SEI, and I will walk you through the product demonstration today. And if you have any questions during the course of the presentation, please feel free to enter your questions in the chat box. We will be addressing, we'll be keeping last 5 to 10 minutes towards the end of the presentation to address those questions. All right, so the first thing first, what we will be looking at is the embeddedness of Sage Enterprise Intelligence within multiple solutions, ERP systems. Here, for example, we have a Sage X3 screen where we have logged into the solution and having access to fully embedded application, the solution SEI, where we can easily navigate through the various options offered by SEI, whether it's the data models that we want to go and see, the different dashboards that we want to explore. Here, by simple navigation like this, we can actually go into the not only these while remaining within the ERP system and having access to all our data there, but also having that ability to access the data and do our data analysis and reporting while remaining within the same solution. So that's some of the examples here of the dashboards. We have easy navigation where we can go and switch between the homes as well. And one more thing, we can even also embed the solution within the different modules of Sage X3 as well. So for example, here we go into the products page, and we can also embed the USA map, for example, the SCI visualizations. I'm having a little bit of hard time showing you exactly, but I'm sorry about that. But here we will switch to the main application just to show you what all these visualizations actually will look like. Let me go ahead and quickly log in. All right, so I've just logged into the standalone application of SCI, Sage X3. And just to explain you the layout here, we have the command center on the left-hand side, which comes with the various tabs like data models and views. This is a slightly different version of looking at the solution from what we were looking at while embedding the solution in Sage X3, which was a mobile version of it. So we have data models and views, dashboards, report designer, and also a section called favorites, where we can store the reports we'll be using most often. Starting with the first one, which is the data models and views, the SCI users, know whether they are on Sage X3 or Sage Intact, have access to the pre-built templates. Here, for example, we are looking at the Sage X3 templates. So all the modules such as sales, finance, CRM, purchasing, logistics, all the way to project management, they all come out of the box with existing data models. And there are different sets of reports, graphs, and visuals, which are also delivered along with these data models. So you have a good starting point as soon as you start using SCI. And on top of these ERP-specific templates, we also have the universal data model. Now, universal data model is slightly different from the ERP-specific templates since it is based on the cubes, and it allows you to bring in the data not only from your ERP system, but also connect to other systems. These could be your CRM software based in the cloud, or it could be your legacy systems, bringing in the data from Excel sheets, any other system, web APIs, and report on them within SCI. Currently, the universal data model is delivered for finance, sales, customer relationship management, and also inventory. And there are some of the advanced functionalities which also are offered with UDM, which are the financial budgeting and sales forecasting. We'll be having a closer look at these functionalities as we proceed during the presentation. But let's first of all dive into some of these reports and see and understand the basic principle and functioning of these reports. So we will open one of the GL transaction details as one of the first reports to open. And while trying to open these reports, we can also set up a selection page like this one, where we can clearly define what exact information do we want to filter on when the report loads. We have the prompts here for fiscal years, for example, where we can go and pick a fiscal year of our choice, add more information based on the fiscal periods, account codes, chart of accounts, and confirm the changes. And the report will load to show us exactly the data that we select in the selection page. And then the way this report works, and every worksheet that we'll be looking at in SCI, the way it works is it all based on the principle of groups, pivots, and columns. So the data that we see in these worksheets really depends on what fields are entered here in these shells and in what order. So for example, we had the fiscal year to begin with, fiscal year 2 that we made a selection on. Then we can just click on fiscal year 2 to expand it, which we actually call drilling down on this report to see the next level of detail, which is the fiscal periods. Now we can further go on one of the fiscal periods to see all the account codes, since account code is the next field. Further drilling down on the account code will give us more information, which would be raw level details like the document description, the document numbers, the transaction currencies, the dates, so on and so forth. So that's basically the principle behind all of these worksheets. And these are provided as the pre-built templates to you. So if you want to bring in the new fields into these reports, we have a toolbar on the right-hand side, which is holding one of the tools called dimensions and measures. where all the dimensions that you might need or the pre-built measures actually live, and we can go and grab them directly from here. These could be the different company codes, customer IDs, time dimensions like fiscal quarters, accounting dates, legislations, site codes, user names, so on and so forth. So let's say if we would like to bring in the fiscal quarter, we can simply grab that field and keep that in our groups right after the fiscal year, for example. So now this time, if we further drill down on the fiscal year, the next level of detail that we will see is by the quarters. We can also easily slice and dice the data on these reports by simply hovering onto the fields that we do not want to see anymore and just deleting them. So here, for example, we will keep only transaction posting as one of the fields. And then as a next step, I will also bring in the fiscal quarter in the pivots. Refresh the worksheet again. And now we see our report by fiscal year, further drilling them down onto the account codes, and also seeing the transaction postings by keeping our quarters side by side. Similarly, we can replace this fiscal quarter with another dimension, which could be a company code, it could be a different department site code, and do our analysis the way we would like. So that's one example of how these worksheets actually work. And we have a lot more worksheets which are offered on the financial side, AP, AR, and on the universal data model, the reports that we are delivered are more industry standard specific, such as the income statement, balance sheet, cash flow, trial balance, so on and so forth. Let's go ahead and have a look at one of these. So income statement report. Here in this report, we have a standard structure of the income statement where we see the sales, the cost of goods sold, expenses, along with the calculations on the gross margin and net income as well. We can further drill these grouping levels down to see what account codes come under each one of these headings, and then further drill down all the way to the document numbers. Another added advantage of using the reports with the universal data model is the sheer amount of the KPIs which are delivered out of the box. Each folder here provides us plenty of different KPIs that we can easily bring into the reports without having to actually create them on our own. So for example, actual posting gives us access to variances, the variances percentages, the report posting from the last year, the calculations of the year to date, rolling 12, budget and actual mix, so on and so forth. And just like we saw before, it's very easy to bring these fields by simply grabbing what we want and dragging and dropping them and placing them exactly where we would like to keep them. Here we now see two new added columns, year to date and the year to date for the last year, which are now showing us the data for the groupings that we see as we further drill down on this report. On the AR and AP side, we offer historical aging reports, which are working both on the same principle, where users will have access to the aging buckets. So as I open this report, we will have a clear idea. In this report, for example, just after the date chosen, we could keep our customer ID as the next field, and that would provide us the list of all the customers under this date. And then we can use the aging buckets right here, where we can see which of the customers owes the payment, for how long there has been an overdue of the payment, and we can easily track down on those payments using the report like this one. And these intervals can also be changed according to your net payment terms defined for your own businesses. So if it is net 45 days that you have defined, net 90 days, net 120 days, it can all be customized. In fact, everything that we see here is provided to you as a generic template. And if needed, these can all be customized according to your needs and desires. Talking about customization, let's build something on the fly just to see how easy it is to create your own reports as well. We will use the financial data model again. And by right-clicking on the finance data model here, we have the option called New View. Clicking on the New View option, we are presented with over 100 different visualizations that we can use to see the data the way we would like. whether it's more visual in the form of bar charts, line charts, pie charts, or something in graphical form where we want to see the transaction postings by regions or geographically locating them. We have those options as well. Or something more advanced when it comes to financials like OHLC charts, the waterfall, so on and so forth. Or if you just simply need to stick to something very simple and plain as a worksheet, we can choose that option as well. Here, I will just give a quick name. And then with this interface right here, we can choose what exactly do we want to keep. So we are basically building our own report here. So columns, we can go in and select what exact fields we would like. Let's say we are building a trial balance report. So we can type in the field's name, and then the search bar will show us exactly what we're looking for. And here we have the ending balance. So 4 different columns that will be added. And then further defining the grouping levels on this report, which will include the fiscal year, fiscal period, and the account code. Done with the selections, and we will confirm the changes. And as a result, we will have our trial balance report created right here. We can expand some of the folders, the columns, I'm sorry, and then very easily filter on the data while being on the report as well. So let's say if you only want to keep 2017 and 18 as our years, we can add them to the filter, and then the report will reload to show us only those selections. What we can further do is to have some advanced filters on this too. Let's say if I want to see only the account codes which start with 1, we can use some of the advanced filters by using the filtering option from the toolbar. And we can very quickly define one here. So account code, if it begins with, so we have all these options right here. So we'll say start with 1, and we enter that as a formula, confirm. And as we further drill down on this report again, to all the way to the account codes, we will see only the account codes which actually begin with 1. So you can define all kinds of filters like those on the fly on these reports. And then finally save the changes. We have the option to override the existing reports or create the new ones as we work on the new ones. Then it comes to taking something which is in a tabular form like this and converting into something more visual like we saw before. So we have an option called view type again, which will bring us back to, again, the same list of visualizations where we can go and change this report into something more visual, like a vertical bar chart. So it will take all the data from the worksheet and show us as visual depending on what data set we are using. So starting with the fiscal year, where we have 4 different columns for each year, opening balance, debit, credit, and ending balance. And then we can continue our drill down even on these visualizations to go from the fiscal years all the way to the periods and further down to the account codes. Here we'll simply save this chart. And we will find this chart exactly under the same data model where we began. So it's easy to track down on what we create as well. Or we can just simply add that to the favorites, and that will be added to our favorite section as a new chart. Some of the advanced reports, which also advanced functionalities which come with these reports, are the integration of the images and hyperlinks within these reports. So let's go ahead and explore one of those reports as well. Here in this report, we have the groupings of year followed by the product code. So if you drill down on one of the years, we will be able to see all the products listed. But right next to the description and the codes of these products, we also have their images. We can hover onto these images to enlarge them to exactly see. And this could be very useful for the people, some of you working in the sales team or in the warehousing teams, where you can really want to see exactly the product that you are looking at. So hovering onto these images and also using the hyperlinks. So clicking on that link will take us actually right back into Sage X3 in this case, because it's linked with the system, and will filter exactly on the same product. And then we can go ahead and use the native tabs within Sage X3 to make any changes, update the information while remaining within Sage X3. Talking about some of the advanced reports like budgeting and forecasting, like I mentioned, Universal Data Model offers us that functionality with offering us the ability to create either the budgets and maintain them within SCI, and the same principle for sales forecasting as well. Let's have a look at the budget module, where users have the ability to create the budgets either by month or by quarter. So the workflow is like a user would come into the budget and workflow, and they will be able to create a new budget on their own. They will provide a config ID, which is basically defining the name for the structure of the budget that they want. And then once defined, we can go into this list right here and choose the name. Then we will define the name of the budget itself. If you're creating the budget for 2022, we'll provide a revision number, ledger type. Again, we can use the prompts to choose what exact ledger do we want to work on, and then choose the year for which we are going to take the reference data from. Let's say we are taking the reference data from 2019, and then choose any of these 5 different methods to create our budget. Whether it's the percentage increase on the last year posting, the zero posting, percentage increase on the average of the last year posting, so on and so forth. So there are plenty of different methods there. And depending on what we choose, we define the percentage increase that we are expecting and we want to see in our budget that will be created. And as a result, we have a budget worksheet where we can choose the structure, whether it's a balance sheet format that we want, the cash flow or the income statement, and the budget name, and confirm the changes to see and actually get into our budget report. Here we will have a standard structure again for the assets, liabilities, stockholders' equity, where we can further drill down to see the account codes and further information if we add more fields right here. So let's say if you would also like to include site codes or departments or company codes in this, again, this principle remains exactly the same as we saw before. We have access to all the different dimensions that we can easily bring into these reports. But what is different in this report is that all these columns allow us to actually go into the different cells and manipulate the data on the fly. Let's say if you would like to change this amount of 90,000 on this already created budget report, which has consumed and which has brought in the 15% increase that we defined, we might still want to go in and tweak in the numbers. So let's say if the number needs to be changed from 90,000 to 120,000. It will take into account that number that we entered, but it will also multiply it by the factor that we define at the data model level. Here it is ×2, so we get the number 240,000. So this is the bottom-up approach on this worksheet, but we can also do a top-down approach on these worksheets as well. So let's say if I want to change this last 3 digits from 0 to 4 to something like 500, we will have the effect on the whole column as we change the parent level and the children are also affected the same way. So ability to manually enter the data and then save these changes. And as the next step, this forecast or this budget that we create can then be sent out for the approval. So it's a multi-step process. So users could send it for the approval to the managers, CFOs, and then once approved by the managers, we can then go into our dashboards where we can compare the actuals versus budget as we create and maintain them within SCI. Here's an example of an actuals versus budget dashboard, where we will see the numbers defined in our budget worksheet and compare them at the same time with the actuals. Speaking of the dashboards, there are plenty of dashboards which are offered with SCI, whether it's on the financial side, CRM, AP, AR, sales, so on and so forth. So let's open one of the CFO role-specific dashboards here. So these dashboards are very powerful as they bring in a lot of different visualizations, as you can see, and put them all together to build a full story of the business. And not just one particular data model that we can use in here. If you would like to bring in some of the sales information, some of the CRM, some of the purchasing and inventory information on the same dashboard, just to have a full story of the whole organization, we can do that as well. So that's a pre-built dashboard, which is offered to the users. But if they would like to further play with it, slice and dice some of the information and add new visualizations to this, that is totally customizable and doable. On the top, we have a filtering panel where we can set up different filters based on our choices. Let's say if we would like to choose a different fiscal period, we can apply that filter and we'll see the data changing rapidly on this dashboard. Or we can include different visualizations, like I said. We have the added dashboard option where we can go replace the existing visuals and then bring in the new ones right here by going back into our data models and views. So let's say if we go back into our GL transactions and bring in the posting by site, you simply drag and drop the visualization right here, and then further even manage what this visualization should look like. If you want to have any labels listed here, any of the legends, all of that can be managed and added in these dashboards. Another example of the dashboards on the sales side. Here again in this dashboard, we will see a lot of different KPIs where we're comparing the actual profit amounts, the margin amounts, the sales from this year, and comparing them against the last year, as we can see here on the top. So these list the different KPIs for us. And then we have the access to the maps where we can hover onto the different states to exactly see what is the invoice amount collected from each one of these states. Not just that, we can also make these views speak to each other while filtering on any of these one of the states. So let's say Washington is a state that we would like to filter on, and everything else on this dashboard that we see will then change and show us the data and the figures only specific to the state of Washington. We can always come back to the original view by removing that filter and even expand these visualizations to make them bigger and see the data more clearly. In this visualization, for example, we are looking at the top 10 product current year versus last year, where the blue bars are showing us the actual amounts and the red bullets right here show us the amounts from the last year. So by just having a quick glance on this visualization, we can see a big gap between the amounts from the last year and the actuals for the product aspirin. We can dive deeper and continue our analysis for the sales of aspirin, for example. So by clicking on the bar representing aspirin, we can use the link to option, which will recommend different visualizations, worksheets that we can connect to within SCI to see and drill down further into the information and continue our analysis. So here, for example, we will connect to sales summarized worksheet, and that will make us jump directly from that visualization now into this worksheet, where we again have the same drilling down ability to drill down to see the product itself, and then further the bill to cities in which this product is being sold. Now, looking at this list, we can see that Hamburg is actually the city where we had the lowest number of sales for this product. If we want to see who is a sales rep in the city, then we can, of course, go back into our dimensions and measures, bring in the sales rep ID, and keep it right after the bill to city. Further drilling down on this, and then going down to Hamburg, we will now be able to find out who is the sales rep. Now, let's say after finding out the name of the sales rep, we might want to get in touch with him to see if he needs any help with the sales. So to achieve that, we can use the sharing and distribution ability, which is offered with SCI as well. So sharing offers lots of different tools to us, whether it's the exporting of these reports in the format of our choice, whether it's the PDF, Excel, HTML, whichever format you would like, you will receive the report in that. Or we can also send a comment on these reports, which will take exactly the screenshot of the report. And then we can use some of the tools like the markers to make any annotations here, add any comments if needed, and send a direct email from within the solution to whoever needs to be receiving this email. Then we have the options to do the page setup, where we can set the margins, headers, and footers, and prepare this report to be printed directly from within SCI. So here we have the quick glance of the report, and we can use the printing option. Coming back to the report itself, just go back. All right, so talking about the sharing itself again, one of the added feature, in fact, the more advanced features when it comes to sharing and distribution is the scheduler, where users have the ability to create what we call as the reporting packs, and then set their own time and date when they would like to receive these reports by setting their own schedules in a way. So we have option on how we would like to receive these reports, whether by email or sending it on the network drive. If that's the case, we will provide the network path here, and whoever has the access to this path will be able to go and grab the reports from there. The second option, the web views, allow us to select our own sets of reports that we would like to include in the reporting packs. So let's say if you want to create a reporting pack on financials, we can filter on finance, and all the reports which exist for financials, even including the dashboards and some of the charts, can be included in these reporting packs. And while I'm mentioning reporting back a few times already, reporting back is basically a nicely formatted file which will include all these reports together as we select here and provide us one document that we can easily share across the teams. We will see that in a moment what it looks like, but here is how to set that up. If there are any reports sitting in Excel, we can also bring them in. And finally, give it a quick name. Add a cover page to this document where we can include a company logo. We can include some of the dynamic variables, which will clearly mention what year and month of the year is actually referring to, and also a text field where we can give a formal description to the document. Table of contents and all these reports listed together. Then we can send it to the different users. Now, these would be the users who would be SCI license holders, but so they will actually have the ability to come into the solution and have the ability to slice and dice on these reports, bring in the new visualizations, whatever they have access to. So that will be the ability that they will have. But if they are still not the SCI license holders, they can still receive the static copies of these reports in PDF or Excel. And finally, setting the schedule on how often we would like to receive these reports. If it's weekly, we could go and select different days of the week and the time and hit save. So SCI automates the sending out of these reports based on the schedule. We hear a lot of times that, a lot of our customers are struggling with scheduling these reports, and they always have to reach out to the IT department to send these reports out. But with this tool, I believe that it's going to be much easier because it's setting the schedule for once and leaving it to the solution to automate this process. And the data that we receive, of course, needless to say, is going to be updated every time the cubes are refreshed or every time we are fetching the new information from the database based on the transactions. There's also another tab, which is called the Conditions tab, where we have the ability to define the business rules. Now, an example of this could be a warehouse manager keeping a very close eye on the stock levels of a certain product. So if the product level, if the numbers fall below 1,000, they can set up a condition that if it falls below 1,000, I would like to receive a notification on that, including the report. So those kinds of conditions, or on the financial side, we can set up conditions like if actuals go over the budgeted amount, I would like to receive an alert notification on that. So those kinds of conditions can be set up with Conditions tab. And here is the final result of what it will look like when we receive these reporting packs, with the logo on the top, and then the table of contents, which will list different reports on separate pages, and then followed by a dashboard and the financial statements, whether it's cash flow, income statement reports, balance sheet, so on and so forth. Last but not the least, on the web application side, we should definitely have a look at the reporting tree. For multi-company, multi-folder ERP systems like Sage X3 and Sage Intacct, this could be something very useful for your own organizations, where you can set up the reporting tree based on your company's hierarchy. So confirming the filters right here, just to show you what this feature looks like. Here is a different way of looking and creating a report where we do not really see the groups, pivots, and columns that we were looking at before, but it's more like an end result of the report where we can add a title on the top with some of the dynamic variables, and even further split this report into multiple sections. For example, sales has its own totals, costs has its own totals, so on and so forth, and also the custom calculations for net income, gross profit, so on and so forth. But there we also have a tool called reporting tree, where we can define the structure of this reporting tree based on our company's hierarchy. And just by a click of a button, we can easily see the information, whether it's the consolidation level of all the companies put together, or we can go into a specific region, let's say North America. And within North America, we might have different companies set up. And within these companies, we might have different sites or departments or cost centers. So we can easily click on those levels of details to filter on the data very easily using this reporting tree. All right, so that was mostly everything on the web application side. But then we can now take a moment to also explore the second platform of SCI, which is the Excel add-in. So here we have a quick template that I have created for creating a trial balance report from the scratch with you. And there are some of the parameters that we have defined, such as fiscal year, the current period, the company codes, which we will be using as the filters as we start building this report. So if we go onto the ribbon on the top, add-ins, we will have over 25 different tools, which are SCI tools, which we can use to create the reports in Excel and maintain them within Excel. So we can go and select the first tool itself, which is the data extraction. As soon as we click on any of the buttons, we will be prompted to authenticate ourselves. And that's where security is applied to every platform that we want to use SCI on, whether it's a web application, whether it's the Excel add-in, or even it's on your mobile devices. So your data is protected perfectly. Here we will go and choose a data model, environment, and that will give us the list of the various dimensions that we might want to bring into this report. In this case, I will choose account code and account description. And on the left-hand side, what we have here is the filtering tool, where we can easily map the cells for different dimensions. So fiscal year, we know that it is coming from this cell. So we simply go and select the cell right there. The fiscal period is going to come from the current period, the ledger code coming from the cell right here, and then the company code, which is the cell right here. And finally, we can also order how we want to see the data coming through. Account code in the ascending or descending order. We can also choose how many rows do we want, whether it's top 1000, top 200, top 50, top 10. We can define that limit on the data that we are extracting from the database. We'll be good with this one and clicking on OK. And that will give us the list of the account codes and account descriptions. And since this is fully embedded within Excel, we can always use our Excel for the formatting options as we are used to. And then we can start building the other columns. Opening balance, debit, credit, and the ending balance. Perfect. Now, to do these calculations, we'll be using another tool, which is going to be the formula wizard. This tool will allow us with easy pick and choose functionality. We can go and choose the data model again, and then choose what field do we want to work on, which will be ledger posting in this case. We'll choose the operation as a sum, and then quickly apply the filters again. So there we have the range of the fiscal period from 0 to the previous period, ledger code coming from the cell right here, the company code, which we are selecting all the companies for, and finally the account code, which is going to be the cell right here, but we will remove the $sign, as you must know, so that we can replicate this formula for the other cells. And as a result, we have a new formula in our formula bar, which we never typed. So formula wizard helps us just to pick and choose the fields, and then it creates a formula on the formula bar by itself. And then we have our result in the cell. Now to do it for debit, credit, and ending balance, it's just going to be easier and easier. We will simply copy and paste the formula in debit, and then go and change the field from posting to debit, and a quick change on the period to change it to the current period. Now we have the calculation for the debit. Same for credit, where we'll simply copy the formula and change the field to credit. And finally, the ending balance, which is going to be the sum of all these three columns put together. And here we have the ending balance. Now, last thing that we are left to do is to actually drag and drop these four rows together. And there we have our trial balance report created. So it took us less than 2 minutes to create this report using Excel add-in. And then further, we can use more advanced tools like formula drill down. So if we want to go and see what all transactions add up to make this amount for us for this account code 10100, we can go and choose the field option called formula drill down. And then we have the ability to select all the fields or some very specific fields that we might want. And that, as a result, will create this new spreadsheet for us, filtering exactly on the same account code and showing us all the transactions that add up to make that sum. Some more advanced tools are such as pivot tables, where we can dump the data into the pivots and create the reports from the pivot tables themselves, and the duplicator. So again, for multiple folders, multiple company ERP systems, and we might want to create the same report, but spread it across different dimensions, whether it's a fiscal periods, whether it's the company codes, cost centers, departments. So this tool duplicator right here makes life much easier for us. So if we select the duplicator, we go and again choose the data model. Then we choose across what dimension do we want to create duplicate copies of this already existing trial balance report that we just created. Let's select it's the company code. So it's company code right here. And then choosing this option will give us the ability to select what companies do we want to include. I will include the NA10 and NA20. Okay. And define where is this company code coming as a field. It's right here. And I'll click OK. Now, just in a matter of few seconds, we will see two new spreadsheets created right here at the bottom, where we will see two new tabs with the names of the companies NA10 and NA20, showing us the transactions for each one of these companies, keeping exactly the same layout as the original one. So that way we can create duplicate copies of these reports, create the static copies again also from within Excel. So the work that we do here in Excel can then be sent directly to our teammates and attached as the file right here, ready to be sent out to them in a static format. So we can do distribution of these reports directly from within here, use the reporting tree feature, which we saw earlier in the web application, and also the cache optimizer, which is going to provide us with the recommendations on how to improve the efficiency of these reports and how to make them work faster. While we were talking about the Excel add-in, I must also provide you with the quick sneak and peek of what is coming up next when it comes to integrating Excel add-in within the web application. So now in the next release that we will have something called the web workbook. The web workbook will provide us with a very familiar Excel-like environment within the web application. We will see in a moment what this is going to look like. So here, as you can see, very familiar environment as we saw just in Microsoft Excel, where we have the different columns, the different rows, and we can actually build and maintain all our Excel-like reports within the web application without even having the ability, without having the need to have another Microsoft Excel license or just to switch between the different platforms, because you can do it all while remaining within the same application. Here we have different tools, just as we see in Excel, and even some more advanced ones. When it comes to cell types, we can add some of the buttons for filtering, checkboxes, checkbox lists, so on and so forth. We can use all the standard features offered by Excel as well, whether it's adding tables and charts and shapes, formulas, financial, logical, more functions when it comes to database functions as well, and something very native to SEI, some of these tools, which we have actually used to create these formulas right here. So if we go and select the cell right here and go into Formula Wizard, we will be able to see how we have created this calculation by going and choosing the environment, the data model, the fields, and the operators, and then choosing from this familiar list of dimensions and measures, where we can go and select a field to start and continue building on our formulas. We have also now the ability to add the and or conditions while creating our formulas, and even add subgroups. So we can do nested statements when it comes to creating our formulas. That's exactly how these formulas have been created, and we can easily create something more like dashboards as well. So here's another example of a business dashboard. Let me just increase the size a little bit. There we go. So this is another example of what we can do with the web workbooks, where we can also use the advanced tools like selecting a date on a calendar. So that will make us make different selections, use the checkbox list here to easily filter on the data. And again, of course, all the different Excel-like environment, the tools, along with the native Nectari functionalities, also with the ability to have the automatic caching, which will make these reports much more efficient than what we already have. So that will be all from my side, and then we can open the floor for some of the questions.
All right, thank you, Jasdeep. Looks like we do have a couple questions. The first one is, how long does it typically take to implement?
I'll take that one, Jazz. In terms of the software itself, it's a couple of hours to install it. Most of our customers, as I think I mentioned earlier, look at implementing the Excel add-in first. So you're looking at about a full day to a day and a half to do something like that. It really also depends on how much of the software you want to use day one, and if you want to do things like taking the opportunity to restructure your data, cleanse it, or if you just want to go into the software first and then do that as a secondary step. But in terms of the overall training, probably about 2 to 2.5 days. Now that consists of standard classroom training and or what we call e-learning. So we also have e-learning where you can go and subscribe for 3, 6, or 12 months. And there are up to 60 courses that are offered within the training.
Thank you, Greg. This next question is, how is the software licensed?
In terms of the licensing, first of all, it's by concurrent users, not named. Secondly, it is based on an annual subscription. And lastly, there are really 2 types of users. There is what Jasdeep was referring to as full users. So that gives you the ability to have admin rights and be able to do things such as create, modify, reports, dashboards, etc. And then what we have is we call it a viewer user. So the viewer user has access to information that has been provided to them, but they really can't create new views and dashboards.
Thank you, Greg. This last question is, This version is more recent than the one I am currently using. How do I go about upgrading and how long will it take?
Yeah, it's a really great question. In terms of the upgrading of it, right now we're about to release in July 2022 R1. So for people that have prior versions, the actual upgrade itself is fairly seamless. So for everything that you've developed up until that date, it moves across seamlessly. Up until, let's say, version 7. If you have if you are as old as version 7 or prior, we would have to take a look at providing you more of an estimate and a detailed analysis before we make that move. But for version 8 and up, it's a very seamless process. You're probably looking at a half day to a full day.
Again, all right. Thank you both for that great presentation. If anyone has any more questions, pop them into the Q&A now. Or if you think of something later, feel free to reach out to us directly and we'll get you connected with someone who can answer that for you. And we'll just maybe wait a couple seconds, see if anyone has any more questions.
Sure. Sorry, Shazdeep, do you mind putting up the last slide? I forgot to mention
Sure.
that.
Sure.
Yeah, beyond these are a couple of reference stories, but if you can continue to the last one, please. Yeah, I just forgot to mention that in terms of resources, and again, RKL is your main point of contact. Obviously, we work very closely with RKL and other partners, but if you want more information on the product itself, whether it be a product info sheet, a video on some of the functionality, customer success stories, et cetera, these are the types of websites and URLs that you can go to gather that information as well. Our website is www.nectari.com. Again, there you will find everything that you need and more to learn about the Nectari SCI solution and also be able to take it to the next level within your own use. I believe we have a thank you slide. Renee, we've gone past that. Thank you. And I wanted to thank RKL first and foremost for the opportunity. Jazz, thanks for, again, a great demo and wishing everyone a great afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. Looks like that's it for today. Everyone, we will be sending out the slide deck and slides in the next couple of days, so look forward to that. And we'll see you on this webinar soon, hopefully.